Jared had always found solace in the mountains. The wind whipping through the jagged peaks, the murmur of the river cutting through the valley, and the quiet rustle of pine needles beneath his boots, these were the sounds of a life lived on his own terms. He had traded the chaos of towns for the rhythm of the wild, where each day was earned with patience and effort. Hunting, fishing, and tending a small garden had taught him to survive, but they had also kept him company in the loneliness he had long accepted. It was a crisp morning when he first saw the Mustang. Its coat was as black as midnight, sleek and shining under the weak winter sun. It moved with a grace that seemed almost impossible for a creature so powerful, muscles rippling beneath its skin as it navigated the uneven terrain with ease. Jared froze, not out of fear, but out of awe. He had seen wild horses before, but none like this. There was an intelligence in its eyes, a spark of something untamed yet familiar. He approached slowly, every step measured, hoping to show he meant no harm. The horse's ears flicked, its nostrils flaring as it studied him, but it did not flee. For a fleeting moment, their eyes met, and Jared felt a pull, a sense that this was no ordinary animal. He reached out, hesitated, then lowered his hand, letting the wind carry the scent of his presence. The Mustang twitched its mane, then bolted. Jared cursed under his breath, more disappointed than hurt. Yet instinctively, he followed, navigating rocky paths and narrow ledges, driven by curiosity he could not suppress. The horse led him deeper into a section of the mountains he had never explored. Here, the air smelled richer, filled with a scent of damp earth and pine sap, and the sunlight filtered through the trees in soft, golden streams. Suddenly, the ground beneath him shifted. Jared stumbled, grasping for a branch, but the slope gave way, and he slid uncontrollably, landing in a tangle of roots and rocks. When he finally scrambled to his feet, he realized he was no longer on familiar terrain. The landscape had changed entirely. Towering cliffs encircled him, and a thick mist curled along the ground, hiding the valley floor below. The Mustang stood at the edge, pawing the earth and snorting softly, as if urging him forward. Heart-pounding, Jared descended cautiously, each step revealing a world that seemed untouched by time. Strange plants with vivid colors swayed gently in the breeze, and the faint sound of water hinted at a river winding through the hidden valley. Birds with iridescent feathers flitted between the trees, calling out in melodies unfamiliar to his ears. For the first time in years, Jared felt the thrill of discovery. The valley was alive with secrets, and he was its uninvited guest. Yet, despite the danger and the unknown, there was a sense of rightness about being here. The Mustang, wild and free, had chosen this place for him, or perhaps revealed it from the world's hidden corners. Jared took a deep breath, feeling the chill of the mountain air fill his lungs, and stepped forward into the valley, unaware that the life he knew was about to change forever. The valley seemed alive in a way Jared had never experienced before. Every sound carried weight: the rustle of leaves, the trickle of a hidden stream, the distant cry of an unfamiliar bird. He moved carefully, wary of what the terrain might conceal, but the sense of wonder was stronger than his caution. The Mustang trotted ahead, glancing back as if encouraging him, then disappeared briefly behind a cluster of towering ferns, only to reappear with effortless grace. The flora was unlike anything Jared had seen. Flowers in shades of deep violet and shimmering gold swayed as though aware of his gaze. Trees with thick, gnarled roots twisted skyward, their trunks engraved with patterns that seemed almost deliberate, like messages left by hands long vanished. He paused to examine one of these carvings, a spiral intertwined with symbols resembling stars and suns. His fingers traced the grooves, worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain, and he felt a chill run through him. Someone or something had been here long before him, leaving pieces of a story that now whispered through the valley. Moving deeper, Jared found a river, its waters clear and cold, winding through the valley like a silver ribbon. He knelt to drink and noticed something strange beneath the surface. Stones arranged in geometric patterns, almost like a mosaic hidden beneath the current. Curiosity overcame caution, and he followed the river upstream, the Mustang leading the way through narrow passes and under low-hanging branches. Eventually, they reached the base of a cliff, where the river vanished into a dark cavern. The air was cool and damp, carrying a faint, earthy scent that reminded Jared of old forests untouched by humans. He lit a torch and stepped inside, the Mustang waiting at the entrance, nostrils flaring. The cave walls were covered in the same intricate carvings he had seen outside: spirals, stars, and shapes he could not identify. But further in, he discovered something that made his heart pound, a hidden chamber, its entrance partially concealed by moss and vines. Inside the chamber lay objects that seemed impossibly old yet meticulously preserved. Pots, tools, and fragments of cloth hinted at a civilization Jared had never heard of. In the center rested a pedestal, and upon it, an artifact, a small, orb-shaped object that shimmered with an inner light, as if holding a fragment of the valley itself. Jared approached cautiously, aware that touching it could be dangerous. When his fingers brushed the surface, a warm pulse traveled up his arm, and the carvings on the walls seemed to glow faintly. A journal lay beside the orb, bound in leather weathered by time. Its pages were filled with a script that looked ancient, yet surprisingly legible. As he flipped through it, the words revealed a history of the valley, a civilization that had thrived in isolation, preserving knowledge of plants, stars, and natural forces that had been lost to the outside world. They had hidden themselves not out of fear, but to protect something extraordinary, something capable of changing the balance between man and nature. Jared felt the weight of the discovery settle on him. This was not merely a lost civilization, it was a secret preserved for centuries, waiting for someone to find it. And somehow, he knew that the Mustang had been its guide, leading him to a place he was meant to see. The valley was not without danger. As he explored further, Jared noticed the ground shifting underfoot in places, hidden sinkholes, and treacherous cliffs masked by foliage. Strange sounds echoed through the trees at night, low growls or calls he could not place, yet they did not feel immediately hostile. He realized he would need to navigate the valley with caution, learning its rhythms as the inhabitants had once done. Over the next days, Jared mapped the valley in his mind, tracing the river's course, marking areas where the ground was stable, and observing the behavior of animals. The Mustang became his constant companion, almost human in its intelligence, guiding him to clear paths and standing guard when danger approached. A bond formed between them, a mutual understanding built on trust and silent communication. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the cliffs, Jared discovered a secondary chamber hidden behind a waterfall. Its entrance was almost invisible, and the roar of the water masked any sound of his approach. Inside, more artifacts awaited: bronze tools, beautifully carved stones, and a massive mural covering the wall. It depicted the history of the people, their relationship with nature, and a series of symbols that seemed to match those he had found on the cliff carvings. He spent hours studying the mural, tracing the paths of painted rivers, the positions of stars, and the depiction of animals with features unlike any living today. The journal he had found earlier hinted that the valley itself might be influenced by forces not yet understood, that the balance of life here was maintained in ways humans had long forgotten. Jared realized the significance of what he had stumbled upon. The valley was not just hidden, it was protected, and the Mustang was part of that protection, its presence no coincidence. As night fell, Jared lit a small fire near the cave entrance. The Mustang lay beside him, muscles relaxed but eyes alert. He felt the thrill of discovery mixed with an unshakable reverence. This valley was alive in a way beyond ordinary wilderness. It was a place where history, nature, and mystery converged, preserved through time. And now, he was a part of it, whether he was ready or not. He did not know what awaited him next, or whether he could fully understand the secrets of the valley. But as he drifted into a light sleep, the orb in the chamber faintly pulsed, as though acknowledging his presence. The journey had only just begun, and Jared sensed that what he would discover next would change not only his life but the way he understood the world itself. The valley had grown familiar, yet Jared knew he was still an outsider. Each day brought new discoveries, but also the subtle reminder that this place had its own rules, its own dangers. He had begun to understand the patterns of the river, the hidden paths the animals used, and the way the wind carried sound through the cliffs. But nothing could have prepared him for what happened that morning. A shout echoed across the valley, sharp and intrusive. Jared froze, scanning the cliffs. Through the mist, he saw movement figures emerging from the forest. Humans. Other humans. His heart sank. Visitors meant trouble. Over the past days, he had sensed the valley protecting itself from outsiders, but now he saw the reason. These were not travelers lost in the mountains. They carried ropes, tools, and strange devices. Greed gleamed in their eyes. The Mustang snorted, pawing the ground, and nudged Jared toward a narrow path leading higher into the cliffs. Its eyes seemed to say, "Follow me." "No." Jared obeyed, keeping low, moving silently through the rocks and undergrowth. He watched the intruders approach the cave where he had found the orb. One of them lifted the object, holding it as if its glow were a prize to claim. A surge of anger and fear rose in Jared. He could not let this valley, this secret, fall into careless hands. The humans had underestimated him. With a Mustang by his side, he devised a simple plan: distract, mislead, and protect. He rolled a large stone down a nearby slope, and it crashed through the trees, sending the intruders scattering and giving him the chance to dash to the cave. The Mustang, fearless and precise, blocked the entrance, pawing the ground and snorting until the intruders hesitated. It was a show of raw strength and cunning, enough to make them rethink their approach. Inside the chamber, Jared held the orb in his hands. The warmth pulsed steadily, as if alive, responding to his heartbeat. He realized then that the artifact was more than a relic, it was a key, a guardian of knowledge and balance. The journal had hinted at this, describing how the people of the valley had bound the secret to life itself, ensuring only those worthy could bear its presence. He was no scholar, no historian, but he had survived, learned, and understood the valley in ways the outsiders never could. A shout rang from the cave entrance. One of the intruders had returned, more determined, trying to push past the Mustang. Jared stepped forward, raising a hand toward the glowing orb. Light radiated from it in a soft wave, illuminating the cave walls and casting shadows that danced like living figures. The intruder froze, eyes wide, feeling something beyond comprehension. It was the valley itself, awakening to defend its own. The confrontation escalated. Rocks tumbled, water splashed from hidden streams, and the intruders retreated in confusion, unwilling or unable to continue. Jared watched them vanish into the mist, then exhaled slowly, heart pounding. The valley had protected its secret, but it had also tested him. And in passing that test, he had come to understand that this was not simply a place of beauty or mystery, it was alive, conscious in a way humans could scarcely perceive. The Mustang stepped close, pressing its nose against Jared's shoulder. He ran a hand along its mane, gratitude and awe filling him. Together, they had defended the valley, and he realized that his bond with the creature was more than companionship, it was trust, mutual respect, and understanding. The valley had chosen him as much as he had chosen to follow it. Jared placed the orb back on the pedestal, careful to leave it undisturbed. The glow faded to a steady, gentle light, as if acknowledging that the danger had passed. He sat by the cave entrance, the Mustang at his side, and let the quiet of the valley wash over him. He had confronted both the intruders and the valley itself, and emerged not just alive, but changed. In the fading light, he traced the carvings on the walls once more. They were no longer just symbols, they were guides, reminders of a wisdom that had endured centuries. Jared understood that the valley's secret was not meant to be taken, but understood, respected, and preserved. He had faced the confrontation and survived, not by force alone, but by learning, patience, and the bond he shared with the Mustang. As night fell, the valley seemed to exhale, settling into a calm that was almost sacred. Stars appeared in the sky, reflected in the river below. Jared felt, for the first time in years, that he belonged, not in the world he had left behind, but here, in a place where time, nature, and life itself intertwined. He had discovered more than a secret. He had discovered purpose, connection, and the understanding that some mysteries were worth protecting at any cost. Dawn broke over the valley, painting the cliffs and rivers in soft gold. Jared stood at the cave entrance, the Mustang beside him, both of them silhouetted against the morning light. The events of the previous day lingered in his mind, the rush of danger, the glow of the orb, the intruder's retreat, but now calm had returned. The valley was alive and breathing, yet at peace, as if acknowledging that its secret remained safe. For the first time since leaving the town far below, Jared felt a sense of belonging. The mountains had always been home, but the valley was something more, a place that tested him, challenged him, and now had accepted him. He ran a hand along the Mustang's neck, feeling the warmth and strength beneath his fingers. The horse snorted softly, its dark eyes bright and intelligent, as if sharing the understanding that words could not capture. Jared wandered through the valley one last time before deciding where to make his camp. He traced the river, admired the strange plants, and paused before the waterfall that concealed the hidden chamber. Every detail seemed to whisper its story, the delicate carvings on stones, the patterns in the soil, the faint glow of the orb deep within the cave. He realized the valley's secret was not merely in the artifacts or the ancient civilization it had preserved, but in the harmony between life, nature, and time itself. As he prepared a small fire near the riverbank, Jared reflected on how much he had changed. He had arrived as a solitary mountain man, shaped by survival and solitude. But the valley had shown him connection, to the land, to the creatures that shared it, and to the mysteries of a world far older than himself. The Mustang, wild yet loyal, had been both guide and companion, teaching him that trust and respect could bridge even the deepest divides between human and nature. Night fell, and the valley shimmered under a sky full of stars. Jared sat quietly, the Mustang resting beside him, and allowed himself to imagine the lives of those who had come before. They had hidden their knowledge not to be cruel, but to protect something precious. He now understood his role, to witness, to learn, and to guard, rather than exploit. The secret of the valley was no longer a mystery waiting to be solved, it was a trust, a responsibility that he would carry forward. As sleep crept upon him, Jared felt a peace he had never known. He was no longer simply surviving. He was part of something larger, something timeless. The valley, the Mustang, and the echoes of a lost civilization had changed him. He closed his eyes beneath the vast sky, knowing that the journey was far from over. The valley held more secrets, more lessons, but for now it had given him what he needed most, a sense of belonging, a renewed purpose, and the understanding that some treasures were meant not to be possessed, but to be honored. The Mustang shifted gently, pressing its muzzle against Jared one last time before settling into the soft grass. Together, they rested, guardians of a secret lost in time, ready for whatever the valley might reveal next.